Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So, today I want to talk about a comic that I think is very special because this is a comic that I think everyone should read. Even if you're not a fan of comics, even if you've never read a comic, maybe you're interested in comics, maybe you're not. Even if you don't read at all, I still think that you should read this comic if you like a good story. I mean, who doesn't like a good story, right? Um, and that comic is Watchmen by Alan Moore and art by Dave Gibbons. Well, first of all, I guess I should say Watchmen, in my opinion, is the greatest comic of all time. I'm pretty new to comics, but like from anything that I've read so far, like this is yet to be topped, to be honest with you. I don't know what could possibly surpass this as my favorite comic, and there's a reason why this comic is genuinely considered the best of all time, and even considered one of the best novels, not graphic novels, just straight up novels of all time. I think it honestly deserves to be classified as more than just a comic or a graphic novel, and it should be considered a novel because of how deep and intricate and complex it is with its story. There's a reason, that it's studied as actual literature within, colleges and things like that. Um, this is a comic I think everyone should read. So, just to give a little bit of context, I'm obviously not going to talk a lot about the story and go too in depth because it's a story that you should experience for yourself. And actually, before I read it, I had a conversation with my English professor about like comics I was reading, and I ended up telling him like, I have Watchmen, but I haven't read it yet. And he told me like, dude, you need to read that as soon as possible, um, because he said this one specific thing. He said, I wish I was in your position where I could read Watchmen again for the first time. And that was what really told me that this was probably going to be a very special experience to read. Um, if you ever feel like you wish you could experience something again for the first time, it's probably a very special thing that left an impact on you. I know for me, like, I wish I could play Breath of the Wild again for the first time, or watch Into the Spider-Verse again for the first time. Those movies and games, like, they really left an impact on me, and this story did as well. Um, I can't believe anything this good has been written in general. It's honestly such a good story that, in my opinion, surpasses a lot of the stories that I've read um, in just regular novels, of course, comics. I think the story is a lot better than a lot of movies and shows, and even a lot of video games. So it really is something special. So just to give you a quick summary of what's going on in this story, essentially, it's an alternate timeline of the world where the United States won the Vietnam War and Richard Nixon is still the president. And the Cold War has escalated to a kind of level that never actually occurred in real life, where the threat of like nuclear devastation is very much real and possible. And I mean, the world could end at any moment. Genuinely, it's a very tense situation to be in. And within this world, we see a bunch of these like retired heroes, but it starts off actually kind of as a murder mystery when one hero is killed. And so then there's not only this idea of trying to see if there's someone behind this murder, but also like, is there somewhere we can stop this nuclear devastation from happening? That's kind of what the story's about. But what you'll see is that the heroes in this story are very much complex and they have their problems. And I don't mean that in like a Peter Parker type of way where he has to balance like his personal life with being Spider-Man or anything like that. No, more so that these heroes aren't necessarily great people. They have done bad things, or they, have these like questionable things about their character, their identity. And so, it really like asks the question. This is one of the big things that I left the book thinking about, was just like, if superheroes were real, would we really want them? Is that something that would genuinely benefit society? Because the way that it's presented within Watchmen makes me question if superheroes are really so great for this world. One thing I will say is Alan Moore as the writer just absolutely nailed this. This came out in the late 80s, I believe, and the fact that I just don't think anything will ever be able to top this ever is insane. This book in particular is what really influenced a lot of comics. I mean, without Watchmen, we wouldn't have mature storytelling within comics. There wouldn't be things like Marvel's Max line, like Punisher Max, that series from Garth Ennis. We wouldn't have that. You wouldn't have like DC Vertigo stuff. The more mature comic storytelling stuff that we see from even stuff like Invincible or The Boys, like none of that would have been possible if Watchmen did not come out. It really made people take comics as a serious form of not only art but also storytelling, and allowed it to really be seen as something that's not just for children. And that I think was really cool. And Dave Gibbons does a phenomenal job with the art. Genuinely, some of the coolest, most detailed, interesting art I've ever seen. I'll show you a panel. Again, I'm not going to spoil much of anything. I'll show you a panel from the first chapter because this is, again, a story that you need to experience for yourself. So if you ever are interested in this, don't search up a whole lot about Watchmen, because I think it's worth looking at and reading into for yourself. Dave Gibbons' art would be absolutely nothing without the colorist as well, because these colors are just incredible. So beautiful. I mean, there's a lot of use of pinks, purples, yellows, some blues, and the way that they can all be used to complement each other and be used for lighting and shading is just, it's very, very good. The colorist, John Higgins, did an amazing job. Genuinely my favorite. I never really noticed colors in comic books as being something that really stands out to me, but in Watchmen it feels very just artistic and interesting, and I love it for that as well. What I will say is that while the story does revolve around heroes and uncovering this murder mystery and this large kind of conspiracy, it doesn't really always feel like you are reading about a group of superheroes, because to me these heroes are so kind of far removed from their personas, and so they haven't really been in commission for such a long time. Really, more than anything, they are human first and presented as humans first rather than heroes, and I really like that aspect. And there's so much detail within this story, genuinely. People always say that about stories, but with Watchmen I genuinely found myself flipping back and forth between pages and chapters while I was reading, just to figure out certain details. There is so many little details and things that you can notice that will genuinely reveal so much about the story to you and give you a deeper understanding of what's going on. It is honestly insane how much they thought about presenting every little thing that goes into each panel. It's so well done, and the story itself gives you so much to think about. The ending especially really shocked me, is all I will say about that. Left me wondering why did it end like that? This is a story unlike anything I've ever read. It's so incredibly well done. You really get to know kind of the ins and outs of all the characters basically by the end of the story, and there's quite a bit of just hidden meaning, a lot of depth to what is being said here. Well, it honestly just blows my mind that this was a comic and not a film that I just watched or a real regular novel that I just read. It's honestly a lot better than most films I've seen and most novels that I've read. I think it is really the one comic that you should read. You'll get so much out of it. It's still so relevant today. It leaves you with so many things to just think about and reflect upon. It has some really great themes that are so interesting to think about, like what it means to really be good or evil, and who actually holds power and keeps people that have power in check, who holds that ability. And also this theme of a better world, of having a better world that is more ideal. I just think it's brilliant. I just think it's so good, and it deserves a read from you. What I will say is, because this is a comic from the 80s, there is quite a bit more dialogue than more modern comics, where you can easily fly through a current comic in, I don't know, 20 minutes for one issue, maybe less even, really depends. Yeah, I would honestly just take your time with it. Each chapter takes quite a while to get through. If I'm being honest, it probably took me I don't know, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, maybe even an hour to get through some of these chapters, really paying attention to everything that's going on. And I think what you'll find is that it's very satisfying to kind of connect the dots, because in the beginning, you're kind of thrown into the story and you're kind of unaware as to what's going on, what exactly is being talked about. But if you can catch on throughout the chapters, and you will, it's a very satisfying story to follow that has you hooked, with some really just interesting storytelling. There's literally a comic within the comic that is very important to the story. Uh, and it's not even an actual like comic. Like, they made a fake comic to present within this story. It is so cool. But yeah, that is Watchmen by Alan Moore, Dave Gibbons, and amazing colorist John Higgins. So I would highly recommend reading this. It's cheap to get too, like this DC Compact Comics format. This book is $10. You can get I guess a better version of it that's probably like higher print quality and everything for like, I don't know, 13, 15 bucks or something like that, if you just get the trade paperback version of Watchmen. But again, I think you should read Watchmen and take it seriously, and don't go into it really knowing what to expect. And I think you'll be just amazed by what you get out of this. Seriously, one of the best comics I've ever read, that has completely just shifted my idea of like what a comic can be and what it can do. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you've read Watchmen, let me know what you think of it, but like, try not to spoil anything if anyone reads the comments. And yeah, I'll see you later.